Didn't feel like anything serious at first, just small things I barely paid attention to. Emily has always been expressive. She talks a lot, shares everything, fills in every detail when she tells a story. I actually liked that about her in the beginning. It made things feel open, alive, like nothing was bottled up. But somewhere along the way, I started noticing a pattern I couldn't unsee. Whenever she talks about our life, she frames it like she's the one carrying everything. Like she's the one holding the house together, managing the stress, keeping things from falling apart. And yeah, she does a lot. I'm not blind to that. I see it every day. What started bothering me is what gets left out. I remember one morning pretty clearly. I had already paid the bills, fixed a leak under the sink, and gone out to grab groceries before noon. I was in the other room when she was on the phone with her sister. I wasn't even trying to listen, but I heard my name. She said she was exhausted from handling everything alone, that she has to take care of all the responsibilities because Jason just doesn't think about these things. I just stood there for a second, not even reacting, just processing it. Then I walked away like I hadn't heard anything. That moment didn't explode into anything. It just settled somewhere in me. And then it kept happening. It's not like she tells outright lies. It's more like pieces go missing. Enough pieces that the picture starts to look different, like I'm just not really part of what keeps things running. At a dinner with friends, she joked that she's the project manager of the house, and I help when asked. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. It felt easier than explaining anything. But sitting there, I kept thinking, that's not how it works. I don't wait to be asked. I just do things. I handle the finances. I take care of repairs. I plan out the bigger stuff. I just don't talk about it. I do narrate my role the way she does. She fills in every detail. I leave things quiet. Another time we were at her mom's place. Her mom thanked her for keeping everything together, said something like men usually don't step up like that. I remember the exact way Emily smiled, not exaggerated, not dramatic, just accepting it. She said, yeah, it's a lot sometimes. I was right there, sitting maybe 5 feet away. I didn't interrupt, I didn't correct anything. I just nodded along like it was all accurate. I keep trying to tell myself it's not intentional, that maybe this is just how she experiences things. Maybe in her mind, she really does feel like she's carrying more weight. Maybe what she says is true from her perspective. But it's not the full picture. And lately, it's been harder to brush off. It's not just private calls anymore. It shows up in casual conversations, in small comments when we're around people. Nothing aggressive, nothing obvious, just enough to shape how others see things. I can feel it happening. Like I'm slowly becoming this background figure in our own life. The guy who's around, but not really contributing. The one who needs direction, who needs reminding, the one who doesn't think ahead. And I don't recognize that version of myself at all. The worst part is, I've never actually said anything about it. I run through the conversation in my head all the time. I imagine bringing it up, trying to explain how it feels, but every version of that conversation turns into something bigger. Either I sound defensive, or she feels attacked, or it turns into a debate about feelings instead of what's actually happening. It just seems like it would spiral. So I don't start it. I let things go. I stay quiet in the moment, and afterward I convince myself it's not worth it, that it's easier to keep the peace than to open something up that might not resolve anyway. But I've noticed something else now. I've started pulling back. Not in a big, obvious way, just small shifts. When she talks about how hard everything is, I don't really engage. I don't jump in, I don't add anything. When people assume she does it all, I don't correct them anymore. I just let it stand. It's like there's this version of me that exists in her stories, and instead of pushing against it, I've just stepped aside and let it take over. And I don't know what that means. Part of me feels like she's being unfair, like she's shaping things in a way that makes her look like the one holding everything together, even if that's not the full truth. But another part of me keeps coming back to the same thing. I've been there the whole time, hearing it, noticing it, feeling it, and saying nothing.
We've been married 10 years, and honestly, most things between us are fine. Stable. We don't fight about daily stuff, we manage life well, and we're raising our son without chaos. From the outside, it probably looks like we've got it together, like everything just runs the way it should. And that's what makes this one thing feel so out of place. It's not loud, it's not constant, but it keeps coming back in a way that catches me off guard every time. Everything else works, and then this one topic shows up and shifts the whole tone between us. Mark is very structured when it comes to money. Not obsessive, just methodical. He tracks everything, plans ahead, thinks in timelines. 5 years, 10 years, retirement. He'll sit there and walk me through numbers like we're building something piece by piece, making sure every step lines up. And I don't disagree with him. I actually respect it. The way he thinks about stability, about building something solid, it makes sense. There's a kind of clarity in how he approaches things that I don't naturally have. Where it starts to break down is how we do that together. He shares everything, his savings, investments, projections, even small adjustments he's thinking about. And then he looks at me and says, "I need to know your side too. I can't plan this alone." I always tell him the same thing. I am contributing. I'm saving, I'm responsible, I'm not careless with money. If we decide to buy a house or plan a long trip or think about retirement, I'll put in my share. That's never been in question for me. But he keeps coming back to the same point. He says that's not the same as planning, that he's making decisions with full visibility on his side and only partial visibility on mine. And the way he says it, it's not accusing, it's just firm. And I do understand what he means. I'm not ignoring it. Still, there's something in me that resists. Every time this comes up, I feel myself pulling back a little, even when I know the conversation is reasonable. It shows up the most when we talk about bigger decisions. We've been renting all these years, even though we could afford to buy. He's ready, he's done the math, looked at areas, even narrowed things down. And I just hesitate. Part of it is practical, but part of it is something I've carried for a long time. I've always had this picture in my head of living somewhere quieter eventually. Not right now, but later. Something slower, more connected. And I don't want to lock us into something that takes us further away from that. Then there's the travel. I've wanted to do a proper long trip for years, not a quick holiday, something extended, something that actually feels meaningful. When I bring it up, he doesn't dismiss it. He tries to fit it into the plan. But then he starts talking about risk, about how we can't just pour most of what we've saved into one trip, about security, what happens after, how it affects everything else. And suddenly, it stops feeling like something I want and turns into something that has to be justified. That's usually where I pull back. Because when everything is fully open, it feels like it all gets absorbed into his way of thinking, his way of prioritizing, his way of deciding what makes sense. And I start to feel like there's no space left for anything that doesn't fit into that.
If you met Ethan and me now, you'd probably assume we'd been together for years. Not because we're one of those overly performative couples constantly posting each other online or making everything about the relationship. We're actually pretty private people. But there's this ease between us that people notice almost immediately. We move around each other naturally. Half the time one of us starts saying something and the other already knows where the sentence is going. Even our friends joke about it constantly. "You two seriously have the same brain," became this running joke in our group at one point. And honestly, that's kind of exactly how this whole thing started in the first place. Not with flirting, not even attraction at first, honestly. It started with this weird, unsettling feeling that somebody else was constantly speaking thoughts I didn't realize another person could naturally understand. Which is also exactly why this entire situation has become such an emotional mess for me now. Because Ethan used to date my sister, and she still has absolutely no idea we've been together for over a year. I know how terrible that sounds immediately. Maybe it is terrible, but the frustrating part is that if you removed that one fact from the story, Most people would probably describe Ethan and me as one of the healthiest relationships they know. That's what makes this feel emotionally confusing all the time instead of simple. My sister Ava dated him first around 2 years ago. It wasn't some massive multi-year relationship, maybe 4 months total, but serious enough that he met the family and became part of normal life for a while. That's when I first noticed him. Not just because he was attractive, although he definitely was. Tall, dark hair, kind eyes, this really calm, low-key confidence that made people comfortable around him naturally. But more than that, I noticed how patient he was with my sister. Ava's very charismatic socially. People love her quickly. She's funny, outgoing, confident, the kind of person who naturally becomes the center of attention in a room. But emotionally, she can be a lot sometimes. Everything slowly bends around her moods eventually. And when she dated Ethan, I noticed pretty quickly that he spent most of the relationship quietly adapting himself around her emotions. Nothing about their relationship looked horrible from the outside. There weren't screaming fights or obvious toxicity, just constant emotional friction, tiny corrections, constant social pressure, moments where I'd watch Ethan calmly absorb tension while trying to keep things smooth. And honestly, sometimes I felt bad for him, then immediately guilty afterward for even thinking that because he was my sister's boyfriend. Eventually they broke up, and honestly I do believe it was mutual. Even Ethan says now they simply weren't compatible long-term. Ava likes intensity and constant stimulation. Ethan likes steadiness and peace. Life moved on normally after that. Then about 8 months later, I moved from San Diego to Seattle for work. And completely by coincidence, Ethan worked in the same office building as me. Not same company, just same building. The first time I ran into him downstairs grabbing coffee before work, we both just stared at each other like, what are the chances? It was awkward for maybe 30 seconds, then surprisingly normal after that. That honestly should have been the end of it. Except after that, we kept naturally running into each other everywhere. Elevators, lobby, coffee stand downstairs, lunch trucks outside. And because the building had a really social crowd, there was this larger mixed group from different offices that all occasionally hung out together after work. Friday drinks, rooftop events, random birthdays. Ethan was part of that group too. At first, it felt completely harmless. If anything, I was careful because I never wanted it to seem weird considering the history with Ava. But over time, something started happening that neither of us was trying to create. In conversations, we constantly ended up thinking alike. Relationships, work culture, family stuff, literally anything. One of us would say something and the other would immediately go, exactly. Other people noticed it before we did. At one rooftop gathering, one of the girls literally laughed and said, "You two seriously have the same brain." I remember laughing outwardly while internally feeling weirdly affected by that comment because she wasn't wrong. The more time we spent around each other, the more naturally aligned we seemed to be. Same humor, same emotional instincts, same way of quietly reading people in a room. There was one night after work where most of the group slowly left until eventually, it was just me and Ethan still talking downstairs over drinks. We sat there for almost 2 more hours talking about burnout, relationships, childhood memories, family expectations. And I remember walking home afterward feeling genuinely unsettled by how easy being around him felt. That's when I started internally pulling back a little, because by then I already knew there was danger there. I skipped some outings, took lunch earlier, tried not to message too much, but somehow we kept drifting back into conversation anyway. And honestly, I think both of us became emotionally aware of what was happening long before either of us admitted it aloud. Little things started quietly building between us. He'd save me a seat during group lunches without even thinking about it. I'd instinctively look for him first when entering gatherings. He'd send me random observations during work days because he knew I'd specifically find them funny. None of it was inappropriate, but emotionally, it was becoming important. And honestly, I don't think either of us felt proud about that. Then came New Year's. Someone from the building hosted this huge apartment party downtown, and most of our group went. By then, months of emotional tension already existed between us, whether we admitted it or not. That night just stripped away some of the restraint. At one point, we were standing alone on the balcony while everybody inside was drunk and screaming old song lyrics, and Ethan quietly said, "You're really easy to feel calm around." And I swear my stomach dropped because I knew exactly what he meant. Not excitement, not chaos, calm. We both got drunk enough that the emotional distance we'd been carefully maintaining finally slipped. And sometime after midnight, we kissed. Then somehow that turned into waking up beside each other the next morning. The panic I felt afterward was immediate. Not because the night itself felt wrong. Honestly, that was the problem. It felt way too right. I left before he fully woke up and ignored him for almost 2 weeks afterward because I kept telling myself some people should simply remain permanently off limits no matter how emotionally compatible you are. Then eventually he texted me through mutual friends and asked, "Can we at least talk before deciding this was a mistake?" And honestly, part of me already knew I was going to say yes. That coffee lasted 4 hours. Then came more coffees. Then dinners. Then this emotionally confusing period where both of us were very obviously trying not to fall deeper while simultaneously getting pulled into it anyway. And this is the part I still can't fully explain without sounding selfish. We just fit together incredibly well. Emotionally, socially, practically, everything with him feels natural in a way relationships never have before. I think part of why Ethan fell for me is because being around me felt emotionally safe after the intensity he experienced with Ava. Realizing that made me feel guilty almost immediately. Because how do you process the idea that your sister's ex might genuinely be more compatible with you than he ever was with her? For a while, I thought guilt alone would eventually destroy the relationship. Instead, it just kept becoming more serious. Now it's been over a year, and Ava still has absolutely no idea. At first, we delayed telling her because things were too new, then because timing felt bad. Now we delay because the truth has become enormous. There have been so many moments where I almost told her. Family FaceTimes, where she casually asked whether I was dating anyone while Ethan sat right beside me on the couch. Or phone calls where she complained about terrible men while unknowingly describing qualities Ethan naturally has. One time she casually said, "Honestly, Ethan was probably one of the few genuinely good guys I dated." And I literally muted myself because I thought I might cry. And Ethan asks sometimes now too, "Are we ever going to tell her?" Every single time, my stomach drops because I know my sister. This would absolutely destroy our relationship for a long time, maybe permanently. And honestly, even though nobody cheated, even though they were long broken up before anything happened between us, there's still part of me that wonders if some relationships become morally wrong simply because of who gets hurt by them. At the same time, I love him. And I genuinely think he may be the healthiest relationship I'll ever have. Which makes this feel less like some reckless, selfish decision, and more like accidentally finding the right person in the one place I never should have looked.
Now she is standing at the fork. Revelation might lead to chaos, and hiding it is increasing its intensity every passing day. What should you would have done in her situation?
I'm a 42-year-old mom, trying to keep things steady when they suddenly aren't. It started with a text from another mom. Short, careful, like she was testing how I'd react. "Hey, just so you know, there was some vaping at Jenna's house. Ava might have been part of it." I remember staring at my phone, reading it twice, then a third time, like maybe the words would shift into something less specific. They didn't. When I asked Ava about it, I expected resistance. Maybe defensiveness, maybe a quick denial. But she didn't do any of that. She just shrugged a little and said, "I tried it once. Everyone else was doing it." Her voice was quiet, almost flat. No attitude, no drama, nothing to push against. That somehow made it harder to respond. That same night, a few of us parents got on a call. Jenna's mom was leading it, trying to sound calm but clearly stressed. A couple of others chimed in here and there. The general tone was measured, almost rehearsed. We agreed to handle it privately, deal with our own kids, and not involve the school. Keep it contained. I said yes because at the time, it felt like the reasonable thing to do. Mark didn't see it that way. He wasn't on the call, but when I told him what we'd agreed on, he didn't hesitate. "We should report it," he said, "before it turns into something else." His tone wasn't angry, just firm, like he'd already made up his mind. I felt that immediate resistance rise in me. I told him it was one mistake, that Ava admitted it without a fight, that escalating it ourselves didn't make sense. I kept trying to ground it, keep it small. He just kept coming back with the same line, "Because it's already out there." At that moment, I didn't believe that. At first, it really was. Then it started to shift. It was subtle, the kind of thing you almost convince yourself you're imagining. A parent at pickup asking a vague question. Someone pausing a second too long before changing the subject. It wasn't direct, but it wasn't nothing either. I could feel it building in small, quiet ways. Ava came home one afternoon and dropped her backpack by the door a little harder than usual. She didn't say anything right away. Later, when we were in the kitchen, she finally said, "Someone called me the vape girl today." She said it like she was trying not to care, but I could hear it underneath. That was the moment Mark looked at me differently. He didn't say, "I told you so," but it was there in his face. In the way he held eye contact a second longer than usual, like he was waiting for me to acknowledge that things had changed. I felt it, but I didn't want to give it that kind of weight yet. Now it's turned into something that doesn't stop. Every night, we circle back to the same argument. He thinks going to the school now gives us control, puts a clear version of events on record. In his mind, it shows we're taking it seriously. That Ava isn't just whatever people are whispering about. He keeps framing it like we still have a chance to get ahead of it. I think it does the opposite. I think involving the school locks it in, makes it official in a way that can't be undone. Right now it's rumors, messy and unfair, but still floating. Once it's documented, it's real in a different way. Teachers know, administrators know, and suddenly it follows her in a way gossip doesn't. We go back and forth until it stops being about the situation. He says I'm protecting her too much, that I'm focused on how she feels right now instead of what this could turn into later. I tell him he's blowing it out of proportion, that he's turning one bad decision into something defining. Neither of us is really listening by that point. Then it spills into something deeper. He said the other night, "If she does it again, that's on us for not stepping in properly." I felt that hit immediately. I told him, "Or it's on us for making her feel like one mistake defines her." The room just kind of held that tension after, neither of us backing down. At some point, I realized we weren't even arguing about vaping anymore. We're arguing about what kind of parents we're supposed to be when things like this happen. Whether we contain it or expose it, whether we protect or confront. And there's no clear line where one becomes the other. Meanwhile, Ava is right there in the middle of it. She's quieter now, not dramatically, just enough that I notice. She watches us more closely, like she's trying to read something we're not saying out loud. I keep thinking if we take it to the school, it becomes something she carries. He keeps thinking if we don't, it becomes something worse. And we're both still standing in the middle of it, trying to decide which version we can live with.
Yeah, this is a tough one, where actually is no right or wrong way. On one hand, Laura's trying to contain it, keep it subtle. Not every mistake needs a spotlight, especially when the kid's already feeling it. But then again, Mark's looking at the same situation and seeing something spreading. Rumors, labels, that vape girl moment, that's not nothing. In his mind, going to the school isn't punishment, it's control. Like, if the story's already out there, better to define it than let it drift. Mark is all about risk management. And that's where it gets tricky, because involving the school might protect her reputation long-term with their own narrative, or if they let it float freely, it might lock this in as part of her identity. Meanwhile, Ava's just waiting to see which version of this she ends up living with. What should Laura and Mark do? Write in the comments below what you would have done if you were in their situation. See you in the next story.
So this whole thing started pretty casually, not even like some big decision or anything. I've always been the kind of person who posts stuff here and there, not constantly, but yeah, if something good is happening, I'll put it up. Birthdays, trips, random dinners, just normal things. It's never felt like a big deal to me. My girlfriend, Emma, is the exact opposite, completely private. No posts, no stories, nothing at all. At first, it didn't really matter. When we started dating, I'd still post occasionally, and she never made a big thing out of it. But after a few months, she brought it up. Not in a confrontational way or anything, just kind of casually saying she doesn't like her personal life being out there like that. And honestly, it made sense when she said it. I didn't feel like arguing it or overthinking it. So I just stopped posting about us. Not like I disappeared from social media completely, but anything related to our relationship, I kept it off. No pictures, no mentions, nothing. It felt like an easy adjustment at the time. And for a while, everything was fine. We were good, no tension between us. But then slowly, weird stuff started happening, like small comments at first that didn't really register. Friends would randomly ask me if we were still together. At first, I thought they were joking or just messing around. But then it kept happening. More people started asking, and it didn't feel like a joke anymore. If I posted something without her or went somewhere alone, suddenly it became this whole thing. People would ask if everything was okay between us, like they were trying to read between the lines of something that wasn't even there. It got worse with mutual friends. They started acting differently, like there was this quiet assumption that something was off. One of my friends even pulled me aside and basically told me I didn't have to pretend if things weren't working. And I'm just standing there like, what are you even talking about? There's nothing to pretend. Nothing is wrong, but somehow it already felt like people had decided there was. It got exhausting after a while, constantly explaining the same thing over and over, that we're fine, that nothing's wrong, that we're just not posting everything online. Emma gets it too. People have asked her the same kinds of questions, and I can tell it frustrates her. And I understand her side. She doesn't want to explain herself to everyone, and honestly, she shouldn't have to. If she wants privacy, that's completely fair. I respected that from the start without really questioning it. But lately, I can't ignore that it's starting to feel a little off for me too. Like I changed how I do things completely, no hesitation. And now I'm the one dealing with all these assumptions and weird social reactions. And yeah, I know it shouldn't matter what other people think, but it does. It changes how people act around you. It changes conversations. Sometimes I catch myself wondering why it would be such a big deal to just post once in a while. I haven't pushed her on it because I don't want to turn it into an argument. But it's there in the back of my head. Like, am I overcompensating here, or is she being too rigid about it? And now I'm stuck choosing between keeping things private and dealing with constant assumptions, or bringing it up again and risking making her uncomfortable. And honestly, I'm just tired of explaining to everyone that nothing's wrong when it already feels like people have made up their minds.
Ryan says Sophie shares everything with him, every meeting, every stop, every plan change. And over time, she started expecting the exact same transparency back from him. Now he's starting to wonder, is this what deep trust looks like? Or is he slowly losing the ability to breathe without reporting his every move?
I've honestly never been in a relationship that moved this fast before. Usually I'm the slower one, the person who takes time to settle into things emotionally. But with Sophie, it happened almost immediately. We clicked really early on, started spending more and more time together, and before long it just felt natural for her to basically be at my place all the time anyway. A couple months ago, she officially moved in. And honestly, most parts of this relationship are genuinely good. She's affectionate, thoughtful, emotionally present in a way I'm honestly not used to. There's no hot and cold behavior, no mind games, none of that exhausting uncertainty I've dealt with in past relationships. If anything, Sophie is probably the most emotionally invested partner I've ever had. That's probably why this whole thing feels so confusing to me now, because the behavior itself doesn't come wrapped in obvious toxicity. It actually started off feeling kind of sweet. Sophie updates me constantly throughout the day, not dramatically, just naturally. Little things like heading into a meeting, or lunch break now, or going for drinks with Chloe after work. At first, I honestly liked it. It felt like she genuinely wanted me involved in her day-to-day life. Compared to relationships where communication always felt vague or distant, this created this weird sense of closeness. Like there was very little uncertainty between us because we were both constantly connected. And because she shared so much so naturally, eventually she started expecting the same thing back from me. Again, not aggressively at first, just little check-ins. Hey, reached, hooray you out with, can you text when plans change? Stuff that sounded completely reasonable individually. But over time, it slowly became this constant awareness. Now if I disappear for too long, she notices immediately. If I'm out with friends and don't answer for an hour, I'll start getting messages asking if everything's okay or why I'm ignoring her. And the strange part is, she doesn't even sound angry most of the time, just affected. Then when I get home, she'll casually ask where exactly we went, who stayed longest, why plans changed from what I originally mentioned earlier. Not in some interrogation room kind of way, more conversational than that, which honestly makes it harder to figure out whether my discomfort is even justified. Because here's the thing that keeps messing with my head, she gives me the exact same transparency herself. This isn't hypocrisy. Sophie genuinely tells me almost everything she's doing without me even asking. From her perspective, this is what openness in a serious relationship looks like. She says stuff like, when you care about someone, you naturally keep them updated. Or, I just think it's respectful. And honestly, part of me understands exactly what she means. But at the same time, I've started noticing changes in myself that I can't ignore anymore. Like now, if I stop somewhere unexpectedly after work, my first thought is immediately that I should probably text Sophie. If I miss her call, I instantly anticipate follow-up questions before I've even checked my phone properly. It has become this constant low-level mental presence throughout my day, not fear exactly, more like ongoing accountability. Like some part of my brain is always tracking whether my movements still align with what she expects me to communicate. Last week really brought everything into focus for me. I went out with some friends I hadn't seen in a while, and honestly, I was having a good time. My phone stayed mostly in my pocket for a few hours because I wasn't really thinking about it. We were moving between places, talking, catching up properly. When I got home, Sophie wasn't furious or yelling or anything dramatic like that, but she was clearly upset, and she looked genuinely confused more than angry. She just said, I don't understand why it's so hard to send one text. And honestly, I didn't really have a clean answer for her, because technically she's right. Sending one text isn't difficult. It takes 10 seconds. That's what makes this whole thing so complicated to explain even in my own head. Because my discomfort isn't really about effort. It's about this growing feeling that I constantly need to remain traceable. Like there's less and less space in my life where I can simply disappear into a moment without someone quietly monitoring the silence afterward. And the weirdest part is that Sophie genuinely does not see herself as controlling. I actually believe that. In her mind, she worries because she cares. She thinks if two people are serious and living together, naturally they should know what's happening in each other's lives. To her, this level of communication feels loving, respectful, reassuring. So now I'm stuck in this really confusing space where I can't tell if I'm experiencing healthy transparency or slowly adapting to something more possessive over time. Because there is closeness here, real closeness. There's very little uncertainty between us emotionally, and part of me genuinely likes that. But another part of me feels this growing tension I can't fully explain yet. Like I'm slowly losing the ability to exist privately without feeling emotionally accountable for every gap in communication. And I honestly can't tell whether that's what deeply connected relationships naturally become, or the beginning of something that eventually starts feeling suffocating.
Ryan, this is what makes your situation complicated. Sophie isn't demanding transparency while hiding things herself. She's living by the exact same rules she expects from you. But that doesn't automatically make it healthy. The real question isn't whether sending one text is difficult. It's whether constantly feeling emotionally accountable for your whereabouts is slowly creating anxiety instead of closeness. Some people will hear this story and think that's normal in serious relationships. Others will hear it and think that's how emotional dependence quietly starts. So what do you think? Is Sophie simply showing care and emotional investment? Or is Ryan slowly adapting to a relationship where privacy and independence are disappearing one update at a time? And Ryan, should he think this is something he should address now before it becomes deeper resentment later? Let us know in the comments. And if you've got your own relationship story, dilemma, or situation you want featured anonymously on the channel, send it to the email in our description box. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories and honest discussions.